She sat there, legs crossed, holding the takeout bag I had just paid for, stuffing her face with fries like she owned the world. The smell of greasy food filled the car, mixing with the perfume she drowned herself in before we left the house. She didn't even look at me when she said it. "A woman like me deserves someone richer than you." She laughed, a small, smug chuckle, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Like I should already know my place beneath her. Like I should be grateful she even wasted her time sitting in my car, eating my food, breathing my air. I gripped the steering wheel, not in anger, not in shock, just in realization. The kind of realization that doesn't come as a sudden explosion, but as a slow, creeping wave that you can't ignore anymore. I always knew she was materialistic. That was never a secret. I saw the way her eyes sparkled at expensive things, how her mood shifted depending on how much money I spent on her that day. At first, I convinced myself it was normal. Some women like nice things, right? I thought that if I worked hard enough, if I provided enough, she would eventually appreciate me, not for my wallet, but for the person I was. But that moment in the car, that was when the last piece of the illusion shattered. I turned to look at her. She was scrolling through her phone, smiling at whatever meaningless nonsense she was reading, completely unfazed by what she had just said. No hesitation, no guilt, no second thoughts. I could have responded. I could have asked, "Then why are you still here?" I could have pointed out the irony of her insulting my financial status while sitting in the car I bought, eating food I paid for, on the way to a restaurant I chose because she demanded it. But I didn't. Because suddenly I saw her for exactly what she was, a parasite, a leech who had latched onto me, draining whatever benefits she could get. She was never here for me, only for what I could provide. And the worst part? I had allowed it. I had made excuses for it. I thought about the years I had wasted, the gifts, the vacations, the endless attempts to make her happy, the times I let her family look down on me, as if I was the lucky one to be married to her, as if she was some prize I had won instead of a weight dragging me down. And the sex? That had dwindled long ago. She used intimacy like currency, doled out in small, controlled amounts whenever she needed something. And even then, it wasn't passion, it was obligation. Like she was fulfilling some kind of marital duty to keep the money flowing. The worst part? I had accepted it. I let it happen. Until now, she finally noticed I wasn't responding. She glanced at me, raising an eyebrow. "What's that look for?" she asked, shoving another fry in her mouth. I just smiled, because this was the moment everything changed. Not for her, she had no idea what was coming. But for me, I was done. I didn't say anything to her that night. She wasn't worth the energy. I drove us to dinner like nothing had happened, let her order the most expensive meal on the menu, watched as she sipped her overpriced cocktail and smirked at me like she had already won. She had no idea that, in my mind, I was already gone. I spent the next few days in silence, watching, calculating. I paid attention to her patterns, how she spoke to me, how she only ever touched me when she wanted something, how her eyes never lit up for me, only for money. It wasn't sadness I felt. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was relief. I had one last thing to do before I walked away. She had one true weakness, her vanity, her obsession with how people saw her, with maintaining the illusion of perfection. It wasn't just about money, it was about status, about making sure everyone believed she was living the dream. And lately, that dream included one particular demand: breast implants. For months, she had been dropping hints, not so subtly either. She'd send me screenshots of clinics, videos of influencers showing off their perfect bodies, complaining about how she deserved it, how it was only fair that I paid for it. She treated it like a necessity, like something she was entitled to. That's when I knew exactly how I was going to do this. So I played the role. One evening, I sat down next to her on the couch while she mindlessly scrolled through her phone, waiting for me to suggest dinner. Instead, I sighed, ran a hand through my hair, and gave her my best defeated look. "Maybe you're right," I said. She glanced up at me, unimpressed. "About what?" "About what you said in the car. Maybe I haven't given you enough. Maybe you do deserve more." That got her attention. She straightened up, tilting her head. "Oh, you finally realized that, huh?" I forced a smile, pretending to be ashamed. "I want to make it up to you. I want you to feel as beautiful as you deserve to feel." Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was trying to figure out if this was real. She had spent so much time pushing me down that she wasn't used to me handing her what she wanted without a fight. But then, as expected, greed took over. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll pay for the surgery." Silence, then the slowest, most self-satisfied smirk spread across her face. Finally, that was all she said. Not "thank you," not "I love you," not "you don't have to do that." Just finally. She had no idea that this wasn't a gift. It was a goodbye. Over the next few days, I let her plan everything. She picked the most expensive clinic in the city, bragging to her friends, posting cryptic little hints on social media about big changes coming. She acted like it was the greatest achievement of her life, like she had won, and all I did was nod, smile, and play along. She thought she was getting exactly what she wanted. She had no idea she was walking straight into a lesson she would never forget. The morning of her supposed surgery, she woke up earlier than usual, practically vibrating with excitement. She spent extra time on her makeup, even though it would be wiped off later at the clinic. She wanted to take pictures, to document everything. Her journey, as she called it. She barely acknowledged me as she got ready, too absorbed in the fantasy she had built around herself. This wasn't just about her body, it was about validation, about showing everyone that she was better, hotter, more desirable. She wore designer sunglasses, a matching athleisure set, and white sneakers that had never touched a speck of dirt. She wanted to look effortlessly stylish for her followers, as if she just happened to be glamorous, even on the morning of a medical procedure. She spent the entire car ride taking selfies and typing away on her phone. I knew she was updating her friends, maybe even posting a vague caption to keep people intrigued. Something like, "Today's the day, big things ahead," because she loved the attention that came with being admired, envied. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. When we arrived at the clinic, I parked right in front. She barely waited for the car to stop before stepping out, tossing her hair over her shoulder, already imagining the scene playing out in her head. I followed her inside, watching as she walked up to the reception desk, exuding confidence. "Hi, I have an appointment for surgery today." The receptionist, a professional-looking woman in her 40s, gave her a polite smile. "Of course. Can I have your name?" She gave it, barely paying attention, already scrolling through her phone again. I stood behind her, hands in my pockets, silent. I watched as the receptionist typed, frowned slightly, then typed again. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your name in our system. Are you sure your surgery is scheduled for today?" She finally looked up from her phone. The first flicker of doubt appeared in her eyes. "What? Of course it is. My husband booked it. He spoke with someone here." She shot me a glance, expecting me to step in, to fix whatever mistake had been made. I just stared at her. The receptionist checked again, her fingers tapping against the keyboard. Then she shook her head. "No, ma'am. I'm afraid there is no appointment under your name. No payment, no paperwork, nothing." For the first time that day, the smug confidence on my wife's face cracked. "That's impossible," she snapped. "Check again." The receptionist did, more out of politeness than necessity, then offered the same answer. I could see it now, the confusion, the frustration, the growing sense of humiliation creeping into her expression. She turned to me, expecting an explanation. "What the hell is going on?" I shrugged. "Looks like there's been a misunderstanding." Her face twisted. "You said you booked it. You said—" "I never booked anything," I said, keeping my voice level. "I just told you what you wanted to hear." Her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she just stared at me, as if trying to process what I had just said. Then the realization hit. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. You lied to me?" I tilted my head slightly. "I gave you exactly what you deserved." Her hands clenched into fists. Her face turned red, not just with anger, but with embarrassment. People were watching now. Other patients, the staff. She could feel their eyes on her, could hear the murmurs. She wasn't the powerful, admired woman she had built herself up to be. She was a joke, a fool who had just been played at her own game. I pulled my keys from my pocket and took a step back. "Good luck explaining this to your friends," I said before turning toward the exit. She wasn't laughing anymore. I walked out of that clinic without looking back. I didn't need to. I could already imagine the chaos unfolding behind me. The disbelief, the fury, the sheer humiliation sinking into her as she stood there with nothing but a dead-end argument. My phone vibrated before I even reached the car. At first, just a message, then another, then another. By the time I sat behind the wheel, my screen was flooded with calls, texts, voice notes, each more desperate and volatile than the last. "Where the fuck are you? You think this is funny? Pick up the goddamn phone, you coward!" I didn't. Instead, I turned off my notifications, started the car, and drove away. I had more important things to do. She thought today was about her. She thought the worst part of this day would be not getting the surgery she had been bragging about. But she had no idea what was really waiting for her. By the time she figured it out, it would be too late. Back at the house, I worked fast. I had planned everything down to the last detail, every step laid out in advance. The locksmith was already waiting when I arrived. He didn't ask any questions, just got to work replacing every lock, every entry point. Meanwhile, I moved through the house gathering her things. I didn't pack them neatly. I didn't fold her clothes or organize her bags. I dumped everything, purses, shoes, makeup, all the useless junk she hoarded like trophies, straight into garbage bags. The expensive dresses, the overpriced skincare, the jewelry she thought made her someone, all of it went straight to the curb. Her phone calls continued nonstop, but I never answered. By the time I was done, the house felt different, lighter, like I had finally scraped off years of rot that had been suffocating me. I stood in the doorway looking at the mess on the pavement. This was what she had reduced herself to. Trash on the sidewalk, and then I left. I parked a few streets away, somewhere I could watch without being seen. I didn't have to wait long. When she finally arrived, I could see the rage radiating off her before she even stepped out of the Uber. She practically threw the car door open, stomping toward the house, her phone still clutched in one hand, typing furiously. Then she saw the bags. I watched as she froze, her brain struggling to process what was in front of her. Then she marched up to the door, grabbed the handle, and nothing. Locked. She pounded on it, screamed my name, kicked the bottom of the door. Nothing. I could hear her through my car window, shrieking like a wild animal, demanding that I open up, threatening me, cursing me. But none of that mattered, because she wasn't getting back in. Not now. Not ever. And when the neighbors came out to watch, when someone finally called the cops because of the scene she was making, I sat back, crossed my arms, and waited. It was about time someone put her in her place. I didn't hear from her directly after that night. Not in a way that mattered anyway. She blew up my phone for days, leaving a trail of rage-fueled voice messages, pathetic guilt-tripping texts, and empty threats. I ignored every single one. She tried to spin the story, of course. Tried to paint herself as the victim to her friends, her family, anyone who would listen. But even they started to pull away once they realized she had no power, no leverage. And then she made her final mistake. She thought she could take me to court and bleed me dry. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not physically, it was the energy, the kind of sterile, artificial environment that sucked the life out of the room. She walked in like she was about to collect a prize. Her makeup was flawless, her outfit carefully chosen to strike the perfect balance between elegant and pitiful. She had a new lawyer, a guy who probably thought he was going to make a name for himself off of my wrongdoing. She wouldn't even look at me. Good. I wasn't here for her anymore. I was here to end this. She had filed for spousal support, for a share of my assets, for emotional damages. She was confident, cocky even, because in her mind she had already won. Her lawyer started first, giving some ridiculous, over-dramatized speech about how I had abandoned her, how she had sacrificed for our marriage, how she was entitled to what she was owed. I didn't react. The judge barely did either. When it was my attorney's turn, the game changed. He was calm, direct, professional, and then he presented the one thing that wiped that smug expression off her face in an instant: the prenuptial agreement. I watched her confidence crack the second she saw the papers. The way her lawyer's shoulders stiffened, the way she leaned in, eyes darting over the contract, looking for a loophole that didn't exist. Because there wasn't one. The document was airtight. Everything I owned before the marriage, mine. Everything I earned during the marriage, mine. Every single thing I had built, worked for, sacrificed for, mine. And her? She was entitled to exactly nothing. The only thing she got was a debt, one she now owed me. See, while she was so busy believing she could take me for everything, she forgot about the damage she caused that night outside the house. The screaming, the vandalism, the police report, the evidence. My attorney presented everything. The witness statements, the security footage, the repair invoices. She wasn't just walking away empty-handed. She was walking away in the red. She tried to protest. She tried to play the victim. She even had the nerve to cry, like she had been wronged. But the judge didn't care, and neither did I. When the gavel hit, it was official. She lost. For the first time in her life, she had played the game and failed, and there was nothing she could do to change it. She didn't say a word when we left the courtroom. No screaming, no last-ditch insults, not even an indignant glance in my direction. She walked out looking smaller than I had ever seen her. I could tell she was still processing it. The loss, the reality of having nothing to show for years of manipulation and greed. The realization that for the first time in her life, her looks, her charm, her ability to twist people into giving her what she wanted, none of it had worked. She had backed herself into a corner, convinced she was untouchable, only to find out the hard way that she was never in control to begin with. She thought she was playing me. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger. But in the end, she played herself. I went home that evening to a quiet house. No entitled demands, no shallow conversations, no forced smiles from me, pretending I didn't see the disgust behind her eyes every time she decided I wasn't enough for her. It was just me. And for the first time in years, that was exactly how I wanted it. She, on the other hand, she had no home to return to. She had no savings, no backup plan. She had never thought she would need one. Her big comeback, the moment she thought she'd walk out of that courtroom victorious, maybe even flaunt a new, richer man to prove to herself that she was still on top, had collapsed before it even began. And so, with no other choice, she went back to the only place she could. Back to the parents she had spent her entire life pretending she was too good for. Back to the cramped little house she used to roll her eyes at when she talked about her humble beginnings. Back to the family she had mocked behind their backs because they didn't have status. Now, she was just like them. But worse, because they had never pretended to be anything else. She had built her entire existence around image, around making people believe she was something more. And now that the illusion was gone, there was nothing left of her. I never checked in on her after that. I didn't need to. I knew exactly how her life had turned out. The social media posts stopped. The carefully curated, attention-seeking selfies? Gone. The glamorous life she pretended to live? Erased. The world had moved on without her. No rich husband, no fancy lifestyle, no validation from people who once envied her. Just a woman who gambled and lost. And me? I walked away without a scratch, without a single regret, without ever looking back.